Good afternoon. How is everyone doing?
Good.
Welcome to Foundations of Programming. I will ask if everyone can go ahead and turn on their cameras if they have one. It makes it a lot easier to teach when I can see some faces. Wow, what a huge turnout. I'm not gonna lie. It's probably the biggest turnout we have for Foundations of Programming. Not many people get the chance to actually show up due to restraints or restrictions with work. I see Gizem. Am I pronouncing that right? Gizem? You have two people in the chat? Are you using two computers to be in the Zoom channel?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How are you?
I'm good. So right now I'm in a public place and I couldn't connect my headphones to my computer. But I was able to connect to my phone. So I'm listening from my phone, but watching it from my computer. That's the situation. So that's why I'm connected in both places.
That's fine. I'm just making sure Russia isn't spying on us or something, you know?
No.
You know,
but the
two different
pronunciation
people.
was correct.
Gizem? Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, welcome everybody. It's good to see that you guys are able to join. As I recall, Foundations of Programming was an optional course. Did they change that for you guys? Is that why there's such a huge turnout now? No? Awesome. I love to see it, man. It motivates me to see more people showing up. We get amazing reviews, upon completion of the program, and good feedback about how Foundations of Program really helps out our students to succeed during the immersive program. A quick little intro. My name is Rogelio de la Garza. I do go by Roger. Some people struggle on rolling their R, so Roger just simplifies it for everybody else. So feel free to call me either Rogelio or Roger, whatever makes you feel comfortable. I am a United States Army veteran. I served 8 years in the Army as a combat engineer. I was stationed in Fort Bragg for 2 of my contracts and 1 time in Italy. Upon transitioning out of the service, I attended co-platoon just like you guys are now, where I earned my certification for full stack development. Upon graduating, I volunteered as a tuition assistant. I'm sorry, not tuition assistant. What am I saying? That's a different thing. I volunteered as a teacher assistant for co-platoon to get more experience, and they were impressed and offered me a position here with co-platoon as an instructor. And I've been teaching Foundations of Programming ever since. So what you guys are going through, I've been through it as well. So I can give you guys some good insight. On top of that, we also do have a Brandon. I don't know how to pronounce your last name, Brandon. Brandon N is in the chat. He's going to be a teacher assistant for the Foundations of Programming course. So any point throughout our lectures, lessons, you guys have any questions, Brandon will be available to answer any questions in the chat for you guys. I'm not very good at keeping track of what's being said in the chat, so please bear with me. Brandon will assist in that aspect. And then both him and I will be available if you guys have any questions. If you have any questions about anything that's being taught, feel free to message me privately or just message in chat as well. If I don't have the answer, Brandon doesn't have the answer, I'm sure someone out there has probably encountered the same problem as you and can assist you with that. Another disclaimer, I do have a toddler. My spouse is currently out. She's flying in tonight. So if you hear him in the background, please bear with me. He is currently destroying the rest of the apartment. So I'm trying to control myself here. But yeah, what else? Okay, well, if you are currently sitting here in this Zoom call, chances are more than likely you have already been accepted into the immersive program. Thank you guys for showing up. It is an optional course, but foundation of programming is made to solidify your foundation in programming. We come from all different walks of life. I know some people have probably been doing this for a while. Um, as for me, I when I came through, I spent like 6 months trying to learn coding on my own before I attempted to join a boot camp. So I had some experience. Some people have never touched a computer, believe it or not. We've had previous people in other courses who, they bought a whole computer just for this program, which is not needed, by the way. Just a small little laptop is fine. But they just weren't sure what they needed, so they went out and bought a whole setup. And are, they struggle trying to learn the computer. But as I said, all different walks of life. Uh, Throughout this course, there's gonna be things where you're gonna feel like, oh, I don't know if I'm right for this program. I feel like I'm behind. There's other people that are significantly more ahead than I am. I want you to know that that is not true. We are all at different paces. If you made it up to this point, you are a perfect candidate for our immersive programs. So feel happy for yourself. Um, as I am tracking, for the most part, everyone inside this Zoom call has completed the install phase with Guillermo. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Awesome. That simplifies everything because the install phase is probably the most annoying part. If at any point you feel like, or one of you guys did not, or you're having issues with it, do know that the first week of the full stack immersive program does consist of installing your machine, and then you will have different instructors and TAs to assist you throughout any problems that you may have. So that first week is pretty much strictly getting your machine in order to ensure you're set for the rest of the program. So don't stress. As long as you guys have VS Code installed and Python installed, you guys should be fine. All right. So yeah, so let's go ahead and jump to it. Let me open up my slides. As you guys saw in the Slack channel, I did add the links to the class schedule and the GitHub repo. We will discuss about cloning the GitHub repo in a bit, but you can look over the class schedule. As I mentioned in the chat, it is a rough projection of what's going to be taught throughout this course. Everything here will be taught, but the days that they are taught is going to vary on how receptive you guys are to the material. You guys are a much bigger class than we usually get, which is freaking awesome. So we might have to slow it down a little bit, which is no problem. Other classes have like sped through it and they left us like with gaps. But I think we will be able to stay on schedule. What you see here on this class schedule is pretty much what's going to be on. Let me share my screen. I don't think I'm sharing. Okay. Can you guys see the schedule on my screen? Just thumbs up. Anybody?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yep, it's here.
Okay, so here what you see on the schedule is pretty much what's going to be taught throughout the course. As I mentioned before, it looks like we'll probably be on track. One thing that we won't go over is going to be the install phase, which took most of the first day, but we'll jump into Tuesday as well because you guys are already ahead. We're going to touch up a little bit on HTML and CSS. The basic framework of a web page, as well as some APIs, CRUD applications. And then if you guys are coming in here with only JavaScript knowledge, we will have a small little Python crash course to kind of dip your toes in the water so you can kind of start switching back between two different languages and understand how that works. We're going to go into object-oriented programming, which is probably the heaviest part of the immersive program, where most people have the most problems with. So we're going to be covering that during this course to ensure you guys are ready for the immersive program. The beauty of the Foundations of Programming course is that it allows you to see things ahead of time before the immersive program. So whenever you get to the immersive program, you don't feel overwhelmed. You guys are going to realize, actually, are all of you guys going to the next immersive program after foundation programming, or is someone here doing like evening and weekend? Is anyone not doing the immersive programming in October?
I'm
I
doing
know
the
I'm doing evening and weekend, so
Okay, awesome. Well,
I'll be
well,
doing the immersive for Yankee Platoon.
okay, sweet. Well, this translates to both, right? So, it's gonna be the pretty much the exact same curriculum for either one of them. Just different paces. But if you're doing the evening and weekend, I'm assuming you have your own responsibilities. Like you have a child, like I do. You're married, you probably have a full-time job. Either you're a spouse or you're a veteran already trying to, make it out here like us. It's we struggling, but it's going to be the exact same curriculum, it's going to be a different pace. Foundation programming allows you to be able to absorb that information a lot easier. The immersive program and even the evening weekend program are a fire hose of information. And the reason for that is because, coding boot camps are supposed to give you the main meat and potatoes of what you're actually going to be doing in the civilian sector. Where if any of you guys are in college, have done college, have a computer science degree, you probably know that you don't really do much when it comes to like real world applications. You dabble on small things here and there, but the immersive program is going to show you how to get from start to finish of how to create a complete full stack application. People specialize on specific roles. There's people that do front end specifically, some people do back end, people go into data analysis. But you guys are going to be kind of the jack of all trades, knowing the in and outs, front and back of how it works and the connection of it. So it is a lot of information. And Copenhagen does a great job at teaching its students the core concepts to understand how to get from point A to point B. And the foundation programming course will bridge that initial gap, right, that you encounter. It is a lot of information, so seeing it for the second time whenever you guys get into the main course will help a lot. Another thing, after graduating from Copenhagen, did you find it hard to get your foot in the door? How did you? I see, Amber, your question. So quick disclaimer, right? The market, and it's not just programmers in general. The job market right now is horrible. So from our my peeps still in the service, just be aware, like it's tough, right? So if you are doing 5 years, 10 years, if you're about to retire at 20 years, it's a lot different. It's very hard. So it's not just developer roles that are hard to get, but it's all roles, right? So did I struggle a bit? Yes, I'm not allowed to. I did, right? Luckily, I did have this job to kind of rely on, but it took me 6 months before I got my first role, right? And some people were able to get a role right as soon as they graduated. Copenhagen does offer some apprenticeships and internships upon graduation. It varies from cohort to cohort. During my graduation, there was 5 different companies that were offering roles. Typically, these roles are Chicago-based. There was one that was willing to do remote. But as I mentioned, it varies from cohort to cohort. It depends on how many different companies we were able to talk to, how many people were willing to take one of our graduates. So there is an opportunity there for you. They do take people if you're willing to relocate temporarily if you wanted to. No one says you can't just go there for a year and then move that. I didn't say that, but the opportunity is there, right? Internships are only for immersive, though, right? Not for I'm not quite sure. I don't recall. I think it is. I think it is for the immersive program. So if you are going to the immersive program, just know that more likely you'll have 5 available internships, but it's not guaranteed. And then if you do decide to apply to these apprenticeships or internships, they're typically apprenticeships. I have never seen an internship. Typically, they have like 6 months to a year apprenticeships where they hire you upon the apprenticeship, with the intent to hire you. So, yeah, But if you do decide to go that route and you receive an offer, you're not allowed to refuse that offer, if that makes sense. I mean, you can, right? No one's gonna force you, but the agreement between Coplatoon and these companies is that if they choose you, you're gonna go with them. So essentially, it just makes it look bad, right? So, we will tell you, if you are going to do it, make sure that you're not looking for the role. This is the role you're gonna stick with until after, if whether you get accepted or not, right? But yeah, how do you go about it? So you're gonna have career services, Amber, that will assist you with that, right? So they're actually now going to be implemented into the cohort. Before the career services, they kind of show up here and there throughout the immersive program, give you guys information, things to come, show face, but you didn't really interact with career services until upon graduation, because if you guys are not tracking, that's the main point of Coplatoon, right? We have a great group of alumni where, upon graduating, you get added to the alumni channel, and we all kind of collab, and then, we post any kind of job offerings that we might have in our own work environment. We talk and answer questions for any graduates, and then career services will work with you specifically. They'll work with you for 6 months. Not to say that they won't work with you after 6 months. They will, if you reach out, and they'll assist you. They're pretty much, it's supposed to be like a bond, right? That they will help you even 2-3 years later, even if 5 years down the line you get laid off and you need to get back in the job hunt. Career services are there for you, so they will assist you, and they're constantly dropping job openings in the Slack channel like almost every day. My phone's always buzzing. My wife asks me like, who's texting me, but it's my Slack channel. Right. So, they're always constantly posting job openings where we can apply. And Coplatoon does have a lot of cool connections. So whenever they post a job opening, they typically have someone in that company that they can, reference you to. So they got some good leverage here and there. And we have a good reputation, right? I'm sure if you arrived up to this point, you probably already saw the reviews of Coplatoon. I think we were named like #1 boot camp of like the year. I don't know, it was like last year or something. I don't know. But Coplatoon is great, right? But yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and move forward with the intro to foundations of programming. Let's see. All right, so quick information. So as you guys already know, classes are Monday through Friday. We start at 5:30 p.m. CST and end at 9. Depending on how the class goes, we might end a little bit shorter. Sometimes I don't like to start a lesson if we're gonna stop halfway through or the quarter way through. So I might stop at like 10-15 minutes before, and we can open it up for questions. The slide needs to be updated. As you see, it's very old. It's gonna run from September 9th to October 4th, right? So it's gonna be 4 weeks, and supposed to pick back straight into the immersive program, right? So make as many classes as you can. As we mentioned before, it is an optional course. But as I told you, we have received great feedback about the program and how it helps you. If you don't make it, that's fine. Do reach out to me directly. Let me know, hey, I won't make it today for whatever reason. I do see those that they drop off one day and then one day turns to 2 days and they just kind of ghost me. Which is fine. I won't hold anything against you. I understand life happens, but do try to make it. It's only for your benefit. At the end of the day, I'm still teaching this class. It doesn't hurt me, but it's gonna hurt you if you guys don't show up, right? So the course here is for you guys. Make the best of it. There's no hard deadlines for any of the assignments. All the assignments are pretty much gonna be done in class. I will be present on the Slack. I'm always on my computer. This is where I live. So if you guys have any questions, you guys are doing some assignments out of class, feel free to reach out. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. As mentioned earlier as well, Brandon is here for you guys. He will, help in any way that he can. Bring any questions about the pre-work program you might have. So we're open to any questions. I will say, if you ask questions that's completely out of scope of what's being taught, I might give you a big answer, mainly because some of these questions are like when I say out of scope, I mean like you're not there yet for me to be answering it. So it's like it's a little irrelevant, right? So the program it's built in a way that we're slowly building up to something. So if you're trying to ask me object-oriented programming questions while we're barely doing HTML, and I see you struggling with HTML, like I'm gonna be like, all right, let's save it for later, right? So, but do ask any questions. Closed mouths don't get fed. So if you guys don't speak up, if you're just letting me talk through the 3 hours and you don't ask a question, it's not gonna help you, right? It happens all the time. We go through the entire class, and then as soon as I close the meeting, 5 minutes later, I get this long message from a student saying like, "Hey Roger, I didn't understand anything that you taught. I feel like I'm falling behind. I was super lost when you talked about, classes and objects. I don't know the difference between them. Yada yada. It doesn't help you. I can try to help you there, but stop me if you are lost. If you are 10 steps behind, let me know, and then we'll take a pause, right? Because chances are you're not the only person that's lost. It is a lot of information. It starts off very easy at first, I'm not gonna lie to you, and then we get into object-oriented programming, and they're like, oh, this got super hard very quick. So do ask questions. We will make the time at the end of class for them. I will stay here a little bit later. Sometimes my girl nags me if I'm still past the clock, and she's like, oh, you're not even working anymore. Why are you still like teaching? I'm like, they need help. So I'll spare you 30 minutes afterwards. But afterwards, I do gotta go hang out with my girl. Ask feedback during and after this course, right? So as I mentioned before, closed mouths don't get fed. Objective to better prepare students for our immersive program. As I mentioned before, object-oriented programming is part of the hardest part of the immersive program, mainly because it's right at the beginning, right? So when you guys start the immersive program, you're actually going to cover some of the stuff that we cover in FOP, but more in depth. And then it's going to jump into Python. Python will be like a week, and after that week, you're going to be given your first assessment. That first assessment is going to be very similar to one of the assignments that we do here. And even though we've covered something similar to it, it's still going to feel like a lot. You'll have the weekend to do it. When I went through the immersive program and I got to object-oriented programming, I spent all weekend until like Sunday night working on the assessment. And then I was completely lost, right? I got to a point where like, I completed everything it was telling me to complete, but I was failing the test, right? So you'll be given a test file that's already pre-made, and all you have to do is run that test file against your code. And then it'll tell you, if you pass a test. It'll have like 23 tests, right? The assessment. I was passing like 6, right? Correction, I was not passing. I was passing like 16, but I needed 17 minimum passing tests. So I needed help. So I reached out to a TA who was typically a TA are volunteers from either previous cohorts or sometimes they're college graduates or in college and they're trying to receive some kind of job experience. So Copenton does like to take in college students as TAs. He helped me out. Halfway through him helping me out, he had to step away. Throughout him helping me out, he was telling me, you don't need that, delete this, delete that. That part is not needed. So I'm deleting everything. And then he's like, oh, I gotta go. And he leaves me and I just deleted half my code. And I didn't know what was what, right? Sunday night, I had to go back and redo everything. It was due Monday morning. I passed, luckily, but I found myself in that predicament because how difficult the object-oriented programming assessment was. And I was not the same person. I was not the only person in the same boat. So object-oriented programming is one of the much heavier assessments that you guys are going to encounter. So for you being here during the foundation programming and seeing it beforehand is going to help you significantly. All right. So yeah, better prepare our students for the immersive program. Also, I try not to cuss. I'm sorry. I am an Army veteran. So if I do slip one, please bear with me. I try my best. Machine setup, we're gonna skip this because you guys already went through it. Nothing here, nothing there. All right, so running JavaScript and Python files in VS Code demo. So if you guys, there you go. What is going on my computer? So when it comes to running your files on VS Code, let me open it real quick. I'm sorry. My computer's lagging so bad. Right, so let's say console.log. Hello. When running your files on VS Code, a lot of you guys like to do, what the heck? Where'd it go? Did my VS Code update? There used to be a play button on the top, and now it's not here. Where is
Because
my-
you're in a JavaScript file, wouldn't that only be for Python or debug?
No, it typically has it here regardless. Man, we could try it.
I believe it's the code runner extension is what adds that.
I don't know, I haven't touched this in a while. Console log. All right, let's go with node function.js. All right, so the way you're gonna run it is you want to go ahead in your terminal. You're going to, for JavaScript, you're gonna go ahead and type in node, the name of the file, an extension, and then you're gonna run it, right? If you guys have that run method, typically like, you want to get away from running it using the play button. It used to have it, or as you see here on the slides, the run code. See what I'm saying? It doesn't have it. It's okay. If you do have that option, don't use it. All right. So get used to running your commands in your terminal. Everything that we do is gonna be run through the terminal. And once you guys start the immersive program, it'll become more prevalent, I guess, is the word you're looking for. English is my second language. I was born in Mexico, so if I mess something up, bear with me. All right, I'm trying here. So you're gonna run your code through the terminal. Code.py. Oh, it is. I guess it's the extension. I don't know. Print. Hello. All right, so here we go for Python. If you guys went through the Installfest, you should have gave an alias to your Python. Typically, if you didn't go to that part, you would have to Python 3. The Installfest makes you add an alias, so you don't have to keep typing 3. So all you have to do is Python, and then type in the name of your file, and you can run it just as like that. All right, so get away from using the run ability, right? We're gonna be using a lot of our terminals, our bash, our command line interface. So get used to the running that part like that. Cool. Learning how to code. So if you guys are here, you probably already started learning on your own beforehand, before you guys even took this assessment. Either that or you went through the intro to coding. Coding is a perishable skill. Like a lot of stuff that we learned while we're in the military, if you don't practice it, you're going to forget it, right? So if you guys are not coding every single day, you're gonna forget, right? It's been a while since I touched my computer with code, so like it happens, right? And we're not computers. You're gonna forget if you don't code. Right now, because you guys are starting off, the main thing that you have to do is nothing but code, right? We talk about, work-life balances, giving back to our families, trying to spend time with our kids, going out, yada, yada, not spend too much time on our computers. But if you're not coding every single day, you're going to struggle, right? Especially if you just started coding, you just started learning, let's say JavaScript, because I believe the intro to coding is done in JavaScript, and then you get to Python. The syntax for Python and JavaScript, although they are similar and very close to human language, it's very easy to forget. And it happened to me, right? Upon graduating, before I had my first interview, I had gone like a month and a half. And I didn't realize how easy it was to forget the syntax, right? Uh, During this interview, it was an interview for Google. They gave me oh, my kids is in my bathroom. They gave me a coding challenge. The challenge was, or the scenario was, there is this train carrying shoes. And at some point, this train derailed and all the shoes fell out. Run a script or run, some code that's going to grab all the shoes and sort them, right? You don't know, there are all types of sizes. There's some left and some right feet shoes. And then the way that I try to go about it was to use a dictionary to kind of try to sort everything out. But I had only been using JavaScript previously. And then after that, I had graduated and I went a month and a half about coding. And when it came to trying to access the contents of my dictionary, I was using the wrong notation for how to access the items. And I was trying to code in Python, but I was using JavaScript notation, and it made me look like a goober in front of this interviewer. At the end of it, I didn't get the interview. I'm sorry, the job, right? And why? Well, because although I knew both languages, I was getting confused because it had been such a long time that I was coding that I forgot the syntax for how to do it in Python, and it just looked like I was not proficient, right? And if you mess up syntax, it just looks like you don't know how to code, right? Even though I do know how to code and have been coding for a while, like that small mistake was that first impression that I gave to the interviewer, and it just went to show how easy it was to forget everything that I had learned the last 6 months, right? And you want to prevent that. So learning how to code, you're gonna have to spend hours behind your computer, right? Every single day, at least 2 3 hours. It sounds like a lot, I know, but the work you put in is the result that you're gonna get out of it. And one of the things that you can use is spaced repetition. So there is this cool little application. It's called Anki. Has anyone heard of it? I wonder what happens still. I do. Anki is a not virtual. It's a application on your computer that you can download. It is free. You're able to create different decks. Essentially, what this is like flashcards, right? So you can create a deck, call it Python, right? And then in this deck, you can add different flashcards, right? I open up on my other window. And it could be something like how to print on the console. And then you can put the answer on the back, right? And then add it. Now, whenever you are ready to study, you have your flashcards, all the new ones, what you're learning and what you want to review. You go to study now, and then it'll randomize different flashcards that you have. It'll show you the question that you created. You can, verbally answer it to yourself, put show answer and see what the answer was. If you got it wrong, then you can do it. As you can see here, you can set a different difficulty on it and how you feel about it, right? So doing it again because let's say you got it wrong, so that way it shows up again in a minute. If it was hard, but you kind of got it or you're close, it'll show up in 6 minutes, so on and so forth, of how easy you got the subject, right? It's very simple, but it's a very good way to kind of start learning the syntax, right? Because what a lot of you guys are going to be struggling with is trying to remember how things are typed in here or different types of what things are called, for example, right? So like what a variable is, what an integer is, Now I know that's very simple, but you'd be surprised how some people still struggle with it, right? So remembering some of these names using repetitive learning will help you, right? Um, and then active recall. Active recall is another good one. Here we see a little picture of a duck. So what this duck does, or the point of a duck, is to have someone to speak to, right? So I'm a firm believer that if you can teach it, then you know it, right? So if you're able to teach it to somebody else or talk through it, then chances are you have a good understanding of the concept that you are currently working on. And one of the things that you can do is have a little rubber ducky on your desk, right? It doesn't have to be a duck, it could be whatever you want. All right. And your family might think you're crazy, but as you code along, talk through what you're doing, right? Talk through the concepts, right? Talk about what your code is doing, what the problem is, what route you're taking to try to solve that problem. And you'll be surprised how many times you can encounter your issue just by talking through what you're doing. You're talking through like, oh, I have to like, go through this list and find every zero within this list. So I'm gonna go ahead and start a for loop. And then you're looking at your code as talking through. You're like, oh, well, this is wrong. There's an apostrophe here. So that active recall will allow you to remember certain things. Like, oh, I'm trying to start a for loop. So, I have to do, for yada, yada. And then it'll assist you to recall information that you have in the back of your head, but you just can't think of it at that moment. So active recall is a great way, and it allows you to see your code in a different perspective. Another thing that we don't have here is going to be pair programming, right? So if you're like me, whenever you're coding, you get tunnel vision, right? As you are coding, you're typing your solution. It's very easy to kind of get lost in what you're coding, and you lose sight of what the big picture is, or what how you're supposed to do something, or simple syntax errors or typos, right? I got some pretty fat fingers, so it's very easy for me to type in an extra character in my code and not realize it. And you'd be surprised how many times I had an issue on my code, and it was usually I forgot a colon somewhere, or a quotation marks, and it wasn't running right. And you're like, oh, there's an issue on line 43, but there's no line 43, right? So it more likely you probably missed something. So pair programming, what that is essentially having somebody else that is coding along with you, right? So it's a two-man concept. One person is coding along trying to solve the problem, and the second person is just watching you code. That person is able to see things that you do not see. Typically, your typos, if you are losing sight of what the problem is, or if you use the incorrect syntax, or if you just start getting sidetracked in general, that other person will be able to see that and kind of get you back on track, right? So that person essentially is playing the passenger while you steer the car. All right, so pair programming is another great way to learn how to code, and we're going to do a little bit of that here in our course to kind of get you used to having other people look at your code, and then you talk through your code, right? Because unlike some interviews, when it comes to software development, all our interviews are going to be technical. You're going to be required to sit in front of somebody else, right, who has been doing this for years, and they're going to watch you code, right? And it is expected for you to talk through your code and what you are doing, as well as your thought process as you solve these questions. So if you guys are not comfortable talking through code or showing it, you're gonna have issues. All right, so we're gonna try to get comfortable. I'm gonna ask for volunteers to kind of show what their code looks like. Don't be afraid to show your code. Some people, they kind of just like to fly by. They tend to always have their cameras off, don't say anything, don't ask questions, and they're afraid to look dumb in front of the class. When I went to the immersive program, I was like, I didn't care. I didn't care how many times I asked a question, how messed up my code was. I let the ego at the door, and I recommend you guys all do that, because at the end of the day, it's only gonna hurt yourself. Even if your code is, absolute garbage, just to show it. Let the instructor tell you, this is wrong, right? And that way you can learn from it. And if you do share code, please have it in dark mode. Some of us kind of sit in the dark room to have a bright white screen. Horrible. The Anki class demo, we went over the Anki class. Next will be resetting your forgetting curve, right? Every single day. So if you guys look into, how people learn, if you guys have ever taken a learning frameworks class in college, you guys have probably already learned how we learn as humans, right? And there's different methods that are a lot more successful than others. And you've learned how to study, and resetting your curve, your forgetting curve, it plays a huge part into it, right? So you're gonna be doused in information. It's gonna be a fire hose of information, and then we're gonna go into the weekend, right? And if you're not coding over the weekend, chances are you're probably gonna forget at least 70% of what was taught to you on Friday, right? So if you go through the weekend and you don't code, you don't get behind your computer, you don't mess up, you don't debug, you're not putting any code on your screen, you're gonna forget. So Anki is gonna allow you to do that, right? Kind of going back to the basics, going over the syntax, going over the names of everything, whether it's a variable, what everything is called, the pillars of object-oriented programming. It's very easy to forget what those are. If you're new to technology and don't know what different things are, if you don't know what an API is or what it stands for, it's very easy. So Anki will allow you to kind of just go back, right? Go back, spend 5-10 minutes tops, go through your flashcards, and just reset that forgetting curve. Make sure that you understand what was taught the previous week or what was taught the night prior, and you solidify that information into your brain, right? Two qualities that you must develop. You got to put in the work, right? If you guys are not coding, you're not gonna get better, right? If you spend hours just looking at people code, trying to learn new concepts on YouTube, like someone doing some cool spiral on a website and watching them code it, yeah, that's not gonna teach you how to code, right? If you are trying to solve a leak code problem, right? And this leak code problem talks about, let's say, for example, like a sliding window pattern, to solve a specific algorithm. And you don't know sliding window. Watching someone code and not coding along, you're not gonna learn. You gotta put in the work. You have to spend time behind your keyboard, putting in code, messing up, and then learning where you messed up, right? You're all gonna have problems in your code. Every single one of you guys is gonna run to an issue where for some reason your code is not running and you're not gonna understand why. And getting through those issues is what's gonna make you better. If you think that you're going to ace an interview by not coding, you're just gonna, do leak code the night prior and think you're gonna ace that interview, you're absolutely wrong. Right? If you think you're just gonna read a book about coding and learn things and then not code as you're reading it, you're absolutely wrong. You're not gonna learn a damn thing. So make sure you guys put in the work and the hours behind coding. Especially because you guys are right now, a large part of you guys are more likely still at the military. You're in a big part of your life where you're transitioning, you're closing down one door and opening up another. It's not time to, play jokes with your future, right? The job that you guys are going to try to get is going to be what's going to put bread on the table. So the time that you put in now will help you in the future, right? The belief that you can do it, super underrated for adults, right? If you have both parents and they show you positive reinforcement, you might not have this big of an issue. But a lot of us come from broken homes, right? Some of us don't have fathers. Some of us were never told that we were good enough to do something, or we don't have a good foundation to rely on, right? So a lot of us, we have issues where we start doubting ourselves, right? We start feeling like we can't do it. You encounter a hurdle where you can't get over. You stop at 1 foot wall, like, I can't do it. This, so I'm gonna quit. Know that you guys can do it. If you are here sitting in the Zoom call, You've already accomplished a huge milestone, and you've gone through one of the first gates of your career in tech. And you should feel happy for that, right? Be happy that you made it this far, and know that you are in the right place. All right, every single one of you guys belongs here, and I know that every single one of you guys can do it. When I went through, we were a class of like 42, 43 students. I think only like 3 people did not graduate. Now, granted, all this goes, it's all dependent on different cohorts, right? Some people have less people, different situations. There's always exceptions to that. But we only had like 3 people not graduate, and it was not due to them not being able to understand the material, but it was because of responsibilities that they had in life, right? Death in the family. I could not attend any longer. In the process of moving, and they're going through some issues, whatever, or attendance. I think there was one that just always made excuses, never showed up, and then eventually got dropped. But the point of the story is that most people, got through it, right? And that's because they've had the tools and they put in the work, and every single one of them was capable of getting through it. And I know that you guys can. This program is not trying to, weed out the weak, right, or who can't make it. We generally want every single person to graduate, right? Well, why? Well, because at the end of the day, Kobatun is for veterans, yes, all right, and their spouses. We are trying to help out our military. But at its core concept, what is Kobatun? It's a business, right? And at the end of the day, we're only in business if you guys are in business too. I don't know if you guys can hear my kid try to launch a spaceship. He's like counting down to a blast off. But yeah, so at the end of the day, we want you guys to graduate. We want every single one of you guys to make it all the way through, get that job within 6 months. Because at the end of the day, as I said, Kobatun is a business, right? And we want to get paid if you guys are getting paid. So we want you guys to graduate. And Kobatun does a great job to give you guys those tools. So believe in yourself. You guys can all make it through. If you feel like you're kind of just understanding the concept of programming, we will assist you in bridging that gap to reach your goals and get you employed. All right, so every single one of you guys have that ability in you. Imposter syndrome. All right. I'm pretty sure you guys hear this, at this point it's becoming a buzzword when it comes to employment and starting a new job, whatever. But imposter syndrome is essentially who can give me a definition?
Is
Help me.
that is that the thing where you feel like you don't deserve
Correct. Like you don't
something?
deserve. I see Amber feeling like a fraud. Yeah, right. You know, when I was in the army, I got out of the army as a staff sergeant. Right, I was a staff sergeant, comm engineer. Throughout my time as a sergeant, both as an E5 and E6, I always worked a role above me. Um, as an E4, I was a team leader. As an E5, as a sergeant, I was a squad leader. And then when I was an E6, I was a platoon sergeant working with other sergeant first classes that they outranked me. And you get this feeling like maybe I don't belong here. Like these guys outrank me. They've had more time in service, more experience. They've been to the leadership courses that they know what it means to be a better leader. Maybe I'm not fit to be a sergeant, right? I encountered some issues in my platoon that I had to deal with. And there's times where I feel like maybe I don't deserve this. But I came to learn that I was the best person suited for that job at the time. I was placed above other people who that could have been more suitable for the role that I thought. But I ended up being very successful in that role. And it's imposter syndrome is feeling like you don't belong there, like you're a fraud, that somehow, some way, you kind of weasel your way into this position, and no one has realized that you don't know what you're doing, right? Uh, I like the have you guys ever watched the movie Superbad? Uh, one of the main characters, he's like the very skinny, scrawny guy. there's like a joke that goes around about him that he's kind of just like an actor that somehow he ended up in acting and no one realized that he's not a good actor. He's always just like weird and awkward. All right, that's like my favorite example of imposter syndrome. I should look him up. Not right now though. Superbad's not a good movie. But yeah, that's a prime example. So feeling like you don't belong there, right? So you guys are going to encounter imposter syndrome when you guys go through the immersive program, and even after you guys graduate and get accepted into a role. Imposter syndrome does not go away. It happens to all of us. Uh, you're gonna get a job, and you're gonna realize like, what I'm doing this job is actually like a lot easier than I thought I was gonna be doing. Like this cannot be it. Like I don't know. Like how do I land this job over other people who have like college degrees and more experience? You're gonna feel like you're in the wrong spot. You're gonna feel like that during the immersive program. You're gonna see other people. They're gonna share your code. You're gonna do pair programming. You're gonna be assigned to a group, and you're gonna see how great of a programmer they are, and you'd be like, oh man, like I'm nowhere near the proficiency of this guy or gal, and I feel like I don't belong here. You guys do, right? So just know that it never goes away. You kind of just have to learn to deal with it, and just not give up, right? Uh, here's another one, a little picture of uh, David Goggins. I almost forgot his name. A lot of people don't like David Goggins. Whatever, he's cool. But there was an interview with David Goggins, and they asked this guy, all right, how do you deal with imposter syndrome? And he said, I don't have it. Like, what's imposter syndrome? And that's the kind of like the right mentality to have. Like, it's like, don't even think about it. Like, that's not you. You guys are where you should be at. You are who you are, and every single one of you guys belongs here, right? I don't know why he gets such a bad rap. This is pretty cool. All right, that completes the first lesson. I know that was very dry, not much code involved, which introduction. So time is 6:22. We take 10-minute breaks after every hour, ensuring you guys can go use the restroom, get energy drink if you have to, and whatnot. But we're gonna go ahead and start our break now before we go into lesson one. Time 6:22. Go ahead and come back at 6:32.
Can you all hear him?
No, I can't.
Nah,
Can't hear you, Roger.
Hello. I'm sorry. That's gonna happen a lot. Thank you. All right. So lesson one's gonna be a terminal, right? So Git in GitHub. I attended some of the weekend meetups with Guillermo, and I saw some of the recording as well. So I know you guys probably covered a little bit. So a terminal, Git in GitHub. So what is a terminal? All right. So essentially it's just a place that you can type commands that cause an action. So everything that you do on your computer that you use like your keyboard and mouse for, you can pretty much just do with your terminal. I don't know why you would want to do that. I think it's kind of a very try hard thing to do, but we're gonna do some basic things in the terminal, and you guys are gonna get very used to it very quickly once you guys start the immersive program, right? Your terminal is also known as a CLI or a command line interface, and it looks something very similar to this. This is a snippet of Guillermo's terminal from his Mac. You guys should be able to use your Weasel if you have it installed. right, just go ahead and pin it to your taskbar. If not, you could probably look it up. Your command prompt, you can find it there if you search it on your search bar. You should have an option on the top right if you have your Weasel install to see which one you want to use. If you have Ubuntu, you should be able to open up your Ubuntu one. There, open up another window. Right. If not, if you're like me, you should already have it pinned to your taskbar for easy access. Right. You guys are gonna be using your terminal a lot, so just go ahead and pin it. But yeah, so a command line interface versus a GUI, right? A graphical user interface. They pretty much, they all do the same thing. As you guys see on your desktop, you have the different icons that give you a nice little pretty visual representation of the different applications. It makes it so people who have no tech experience are able to pick up a computer and use it effectively. But then it's going to be you guys who are going to be programmers, so you should be able to get comfortable with your command line interface. You are able to do a lot more and a lot faster with your terminal than you would be if you're constantly just using your GUI, right? But it is there for those people that don't know how to use the terminal. Make sure you guys have a terminal. So if you guys don't have your Ubuntu terminal, then it's fine. You can still use your regular command prompt. It just won't. It's not Linux, so it's not gonna be the exact same commands for all of them. For example, I believe if I were to do ls to list everything within this directory, it wouldn't give it to me. So I have to do dir, which is directory, and then it will give me a list. So the reason why Windows people use Ubuntu is so that way we can all be on the same page and have the same commands and learn the same. So there's no difference there. But that's the reason for it. All right, so following along on your common terminal commands. So these are some. We're gonna go over a handful, some of the most common ones that you'll probably see and use. Everything that you're gonna learn in foundation programming is gonna be to get your toes wet, right? So it's in the name, it's the bare foundations of programming, right? It's to solidify the basic coding principles, get you introduced to new concepts. So whenever you guys experience it in the immersive program, you are not spending days trying to learn a concept. You're able to be very receptive, catch on to it quickly, and be able to focus on the other new stuff you are being taught, right? Because there's just, like as I mentioned, there's so much information. If this is the first time you're seeing it, you're going to be struggling with the other stuff you're going to be taught. So go ahead and open up your terminal. You should have a window very similar to this. The PWD is, sorry, if I distract this because my son's calling. PWD will print your working directory. It says my internet connection is unstable. I do have Verizon's 5G internet, but I don't know if you guys know how that works. It pings like your nearest tower, and I'm next to a highway. So during this time when people are out of work, it's a lot more busy. So these towers tend to prioritize cell connections over internet. So sometimes I do lag during these evening sessions. So PWD will print your working directory. I have it set here. So this is where the top level of where all my stuff is at. If you start getting into deeper into your terminal and you do PWD print working directory, it'll tell you where you're at. So I'm inside my R de la Garza 12 user within my analytics coding folder, and then within this folder I have another folder called JavaScript, right? So directories are going to be just another name for folder. So if I use directory or folder, just know they're interchangeable. I think it's on here, but if you want to clear your screen, you're able to type in clear, and it'll clear all the previous commands that you have done on your terminal, giving you a nice clean slate. The next thing we're going to cover is making a directory, or essentially a folder. So we'll use the make directory command, and I'm just gonna call this test folder. And if I do ls, essentially, I'm listing everything within the directory. It will show me all the files or folders that I have worked within the current directory that I'm in. And we see that we have our new directory here called test folder. Right, this is the same directory I was working on when I had my VS Code opened up. Now, your CD is going to be your change directory, so moving to a different folder. So I'm currently within the JavaScript folder, but I want to get into my new test folder that I just created. So we're going to go ahead and use CD and then type in the name of the new directory that I created. And now we see here, I can even do pwd again to show where I'm at right now. And we see I'm within my JavaScript directory inside my test folder directory, right? CD will allow you to go into a directory. Now, how do I get out of it? Well, next is going to be your CD and then 2 dots. That's going to allow you to go up one directory. So if you just do CD space dot dot, we see it went from test folder, it went back up into JavaScript. All right, so when you're looking at your directories and where you are, think of it as like top level. And as you're trying to get deeper into your folders, you're going down, right? So whenever we want to go back up, you do CD dot dot, that will bring you back up to the next, directory that's above of where you're at right now. So that'll bring you back to where you are. Essentially, we're just diving deep into it and then coming back up. I can use it again, and then it'll take me from JavaScript to my latest folder. But let's go back into JavaScript. So CD JavaScript. Actually, let's get out of here. Let's go into my examples directory. Oh, I don't have. Oh, did I delete it? I had a directory for examples, but I think I deleted it. CD and then your little squiggly line. I know there's a name for it. That'll allow you to go back to your working directory. I'm sorry, your top level. So CD squiggly line brings it back all the way up. Right. So now I'm at the top level. Okay. Touch. I don't know why it's named that. But touch will allow you to create a file, right? Using your terminal. So if we go into the new folder that we created, which was test folder, I'm gonna go ahead and CD into it. Within here, I'm going to create a new file. So we'll say touch. We'll say example underscore file dot py. And then as you see here, it says nothing back, right? So whenever we're working with code, no response is a good response, right? If your computer is yelling at you, it's probably because there's something wrong, right? So if you don't receive any feedback, that's good feedback. We can use ls just to confirm. And we see here that it prints out the names of the files within this directory. And I have my example file.py. Oh, I'm sorry, give me a second. Okay, I'm sorry. Can you guys hear my kid or no? Oh, perfect. I'll just continue ignoring him. All right. So yeah, so that will allow you to create a file. Next, it's going to be your ls, which you guys kind of just saw me use. That's going to allow you to list all the files within your current working directory. I kind of showed it here. ls-l will show all the files within the directory with extra info. The extra info isn't really necessary, but I can show you what it shows you. Was it? What the heck? What was it? ls-l. My bad. You're not really going to use this too much, right? So this will show you the date that it was created, at what time it was created, and then it's going to show you something very unique here, right? On the left side, we see almost like a little code. It's a bunch of dashes, and within these dashes, we see some kind of numbers or letters here. We see R, W, R, R. essentially what this is the permissions within this file, right? This shows you the settings of what this file is under, who can read and write, or delete anything from it, right? Every single segment, there's there's 3 different segments, and every single segment is for a different part. It's for you, other people, and then I believe the last one's administrator. And then it just lets you know if you can read or write something. If you ever try to delete a file and it tells you, I know you guys see you pulling my arm. If you guys ever see a file telling you that you don't have permission to delete it, or you can't delete it because the restrictions, it's more than likely because there is a setting on this file that does not allow you to delete it. Thank you, James. I see you use group other. I see your message. But yeah, so you guys won't ever really use it much within the immersion program, so don't worry too much about it. It's mainly just so you guys are aware that it works. I'll be right back. I'm gonna go change my son. Quick 5-minute break. I'm so sorry.
Justin, maybe you can tell us more about that ASDF.
Yeah, so for both Windows and Mac users, ASTF is like a program manager, so you can set you can download a file or a set of files, for instance, like JS Node or in this case, Oh My Zeesh or whatever you want to a specific set of files, and then you can manage their version. You can create environments within your own home structure. So you could just be like, for this particular folder, use this version of Node. For this particular folder, use this version of Python. It doesn't affect your entire file system on the computer. So you could do that to your home directory for if you're using Ubuntu or if you're using Mac, it'd be like your Unix terminal. And it just keeps it local to that particular terminal instance every time you open the terminal. That way it's not affecting your entire file structure. That's also what Homebrew would do. It's also a package manager like that. But I don't like installing things to the whole subsystem, because then if I want to run Python version 3.10 and I've got 3.11 running everywhere else, it creates all kinds of environment issues. And ASDF is a cool, quick way to do it. Their website's really cool. Once you get it installed, it pretty much, you put the file version into a hidden file, which is .tools, and you just say, I want latest version in this file, and it will update all your directories automatically.
Is it that medium.com link that you sent us?
That's a good starter one. ASDF, the package manager, has really good documentation itself. However, if you're super new to the command line, it would probably be a little confusing. I'm quite advanced in it, so I forget that sometimes, but it's really not too difficult. And there's so much documentation and community out there. There's a lot of beginner guides on Google that you could look up.
It's an ASDF.
Yeah, but if you're a Mac user, the old school way of doing it, by old school, I mean a whopping 2 years ago or whatever, was Homebrew. That's pretty much what everybody used.
All right, I'm back. I'm so sorry. This is not an ongoing thing. It's just today, I promise you. But all right, getting back to the lesson. So shows all file with the directory of extra info. Not too much to worry about. And then the LA, same concept. It's just going to show you if any hidden files as well. The next one is going to be RM, which is something that's actually going to be very useful for you guys. If you guys want to remove a file from within a directory, you're going to use the RM and then the name of the file that you want to delete, right? After it gets deleted, go ahead, use ls to list everything within the directory, and then we see there's nothing in here. There is someone that's hot micing. Or is that me? You guys don't hear?
It was Mikey muted.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you for that. So that's gonna allow you to remove a file. Next is gonna be to remove a directory. So we're gonna delete this test folder, and we'll say RM to remove. R is gonna be for recursively, and then the name of the file or folder that we want to delete is gonna be test folder. No news is good news. We go ahead and use ls, and we see that it is no longer present. Right? So rm by itself for a file, -r for the folder. Sometimes you're also going to get an error, right? So if that folder has something in there, I think we have it here. Oh, yeah, we do. Never mind. I'll get to it in a bit then. All right. The next thing is going to be sudo. That's going to be, I'm sure you guys saw it a lot too. It's going to be, it stands for super user do. Yes, Gary Rojas, correct. We'll get to that in a bit, to remove a folder with files. But the next one we're covering right now is going to be sudo, right? It's going to be giving you user root level permissions. Sometimes, yeah, have you guys ever opened up a folder and you have to run it administrative or to let you do stuff? Very similar to that. It's going to give you the abilities of a super user. So by using sudo and then the command that you're trying to do, it'll overwrite the permissions and just let you do what you're looking for. You guys probably use it a lot during the install fest. There's a lot of sudo parts where it was telling you to use it. That's to kind of get around those permissions. Next, going to be cat. This is going to list out different things in your folder. We can go ahead and use that here. Let's go ahead back out. We can do cat JavaScript. Why is that not there? Let's see.
Cat is for files to show what's in a file.
Yeah, yes, you're right. Python code, which one did I just do earlier? Python code.py. Which one was that working? Yeah. We can do cat Python code.py, and then we had the print hello here. There we go. So where's it at? List combines and writes file content to a standard output. So it'll show you what's within a file. CP will allow you to copy files or directories and their contents. We can copy this other file that we just created. All right, let's clear this up. We can do cp python code.py, and then we're going to go ahead and copy that. So we can go ahead and create the new file we want to create. We can do python code2.py. This will copy your file. No, this is good news. ls to list it out, and we see here that we copied that file with a new file, renamed it, but if we were to open it up, then it should show us what's in there. To open up a file from here, we can do code. This will open up our VS Code. Type in the name of the file you're trying to open up, and then press enter. It'll open up your VS Code and open the file that you command for it to open. And we see here Python code 2. Here's Python code. They're the exact same thing. Right? Let's go ahead and close it out. Let's remove Python code 2. All right, it's gone. ME will move a file or it'll rename it. So similar to your what you call it, the CP, we can do mv python code.py, and they say python code.py. This will allow you to rename it. If you give it a different direction, you can send it to somewhere else. Actually, let's see, make sure it shows it to you. Python code.py. All right. Let's see what's next. If you wanted to move it, you would have to give it a directory. Find a file somewhere. Okay. So you can find a file, or you can find there's different ways of using file. A way to use it that I like using it is to find items in a text file. So there's different ways of doing that. You can do it using regex. We can do find. I think I created a file earlier. file one. I have this file right here. It's a text file that has a list of, or just a bunch of different animals. And I imagine you have multiple files with different contents in here. If you want to find the file that had horse within this directory, find horse, JavaScript. I did not find it. It's in. What did I do earlier? You're able to find. Why isn't that finding it? Give me a second. Guess I'm thinking of correct. Let's go with, okay. cd ls.
Purple parse text and find will
Yeah.
find the file.
That's why. Find. What was the name of that file in JavaScript? Python code. Find Python code in JavaScript. No such file, Python code, Python code, Py. Or I don't use this one too often. Oh, well. Let's see. Oh, okay. It's gonna have to be with the, okay. If we do find and then name, we can say file1.text. It's not finding it. We'll get back to this one too. I don't hold back to class. All right, we'll go to grep. I'll get back to you with the find one. Grep will allow you to find different names. Going back to the horse concept. JavaScript is a directory. cd JavaScript. Here, correct. Horse and file one.text. There we go. Right. So if you have a file that has like a bunch of content in there and you don't want to skim through the entire thing, whether you're looking for a line of code, a lot of times what you'll find will be when you're working your job, you'll have scripts, right? You will have things that are automated, and these scripts will have different things that they do in there. Let's say you're looking for a script that let's say that's supposed to grab all these emails that you have on Outlook, right? But there's a specific script that has that. So you're not going through all your different scripts to find, every single, piece of code that's in there. You can use your grep to look for specific keywords within all these files. You can even give it other files to check. So I would do grep and then put the text I'm looking for, and then all the files followed afterwards to look into all the different files to see which one actually has the file that I'm looking for, right? Does that make sense? You're essentially just trying to parse the different documentation to see which file has the context that you're looking for, right? Let's say I'm looking for this text file that has the code to find, certain emails on the Outlooks, and I can just go ahead and type, let's say, the subject line of the emails I'm looking for, as the text I'm looking for, and then put in the names of the files you're trying to parse through. And then if it finds a match, it'll return it to you, right? It'll simplify all that so you're not opening up every individual text file to look through the documentation within it. Change mod, change the file's read, write, execute permissions. So we saw that earlier with listing the different files within a directory using the -L. That little code that you saw on the left side that tells you the permissions of it. As James said earlier, the user, group, and other. This will allow you to change the permissions for that file, right? Ping is a way to ping if something is running. We can do something like Google, and it'll constantly just ping Google and it'll tell you that it's up, right? Clear. History, you saw me use it earlier. If we type in history, it will show you all the commands that you have ran within your terminal in order of how you've used them. In case you forgot how you did something or what directory led you to something that you're looking for, you can't remember, check your history and you can see what you were doing to get to that location. And then echo is a way to kind of say something on your terminal. We can say something like, let's say, we could do name is equal to Alice. And then we can say echo hello name. And then we see here that it echoed out the text that I added within it, and then the name, which we essentially created a variable called Alice. So it takes this placeholder of name and adds Alice into it. We can essentially just echo commands into our terminal. Cool. Next, we'll have clear. We went over that earlier. If you want to clear out everything that you have in terminal because it's too chaotic, there's so much stuff in there, that'll allow you to clear everything. I just did it earlier. Tab autocomplete in the terminal. You guys are probably wondering like, oh, how does he, just type in everything very quickly? I'm not, right? Tab is very universal for other applications. I'm pretty sure you can use it in Word as well. For example, here I have, let's back out. I have a bunch of different folders. I want to get into my JavaScript one, so I can do CD and start typing it out. There's no other one that starts with Java, so it knows that, actually there is one that starts with Java, but it starts with a J. That's capitalized, so it won't go to that one, right? It's gonna match what's the closest to what I've typed out so far. I can press tab and it'll autocomplete for me, so I don't have to type out the entirety of the directory. Control C will terminate a running command. You saw here when I was pinging Google, it just kept pinging it over and over again. By typing in or pressing Control C, it terminated that ping. So the command stops running. Control Q will undo a terminal freeze. And then, as we talked about earlier, removing a file or a folder. I mentioned that you can remove a folder that has files in there, right? If you try to remove a folder using this command and it has files, you're gonna get an error, right? So if you are sure that everything within this directory is absolutely useless and you do not need it, then you can use the F to force it, right? It'll remove the folder as well as any files within it. We see here a little disclaimer, be careful, right? Make sure that whatever you're trying to delete, you can actually delete it. And then we have the code command that you saw me use earlier. You type in code and the name of the folder or file you're trying to open up in VS Code, and it should open up in VS Code, right? And here is your little command to get that to work, if you guys were wondering. Cool. You guys do not need to know all this by memory by today. I promise you. All right. This is just a quick little explanation of some of the commands that you will see often. Not all of these are relevant. As I mentioned to you, the dash L, dash LA, not too relevant. I don't use much of the find one. Grep I've used before. I used change mod once. All right, since I started coding. Um, I don't ever use ping. I've used history a lot. I don't ever use echo, right? This is just to give you an idea of the different commands you can use in your terminal using Linux. You don't have to memorize every single one of these. If what I do recommend is make a Anki deck and have one of the most common ones that you have, like you might use, like making a directory, going into a directory, going back up, going to your home, creating the file, listing everything out, removing a file, removing a folder with files. These are all very important. Cat, it I haven't really used it. Copying could be useful. Moving a file, useful as well, especially here. So if you guys aren't familiar with your computer and using Ubuntu, when you guys create or install Ubuntu, you're essentially finding a small spot in your computer deep in the middle of nowhere, and that's where Ubuntu is living in. It can be kind of a pain to find it, especially if you're looking through your folders and files and you're trying to find the work that you worked on during the day. You're like, oh, I worked on this Python file for this assignment. If you are on Windows and you try to go to your folder and just go to like documents, you're not gonna find it, right? It's kind of a pain to get to it. So if you're gonna want to like move stuff around in your files and folders, you're probably gonna have to do it to your terminal, your Ubuntu terminal, to have easy access to it. So knowing MV will be very helpful. But yeah, so the more common ones that you think that you might find use of them, definitely create an Anki deck, kind of go over them to ensure you remember them. You're gonna be using these every single day during the immersive program. So the most common ones, definitely learn them. All the other irrelevant ones like echo, ping and whatnot, you can brain dump those if you want. Just know they exist and there is all this other stuff that you can do. I will give a quick disclaimer. Software development is very broad, right? Computer science, software development, whether it's front end, back end, full stack, whether you're doing game design, right? If you're a data analyst and you're working with, SQL, and different databases, right? It's all such a broad spectrum. There's so many routes that you guys can take. And all these different routes have different ways of doing things. They all take different applications. You might use some things more than others, right? I recently started using Tableau for work. That was like brand new. We don't teach Tableau here because we're teaching full stack, but Tableau it's used a lot for data analysis. But there's all these other tools, all this information that there's just so much you're not gonna learn it all. I promise you that, and you're not gonna be proficient in it all. So what you guys do work on, make sure you guys learn it very well. But if you're not, like, don't feel bummed out about it. Keep your Anki up, right? If you guys take any notes, always resort to them. We're gonna be using a lot of different websites here for some of the stuff that we do. I'll give you one of the ones I like to use is W3 Schools. Have you guys used that before? I'm sure you guys probably have. W3 Schools is awesome, right? I've been coding it for 2 years now. I still use some of these things. Like if you think I know every single command when it comes to using Linux, if you think I know how to use every single, for example, like we're gonna go over regular expressions. I don't remember everything for regular expressions. I'm gonna be complete honest with you because I don't use regular expressions. I know how to do them, but like that's not part of my work. So I'll go months at a time, never using it or seeing it. So if you think I remember like what the flags are right now, I don't. None of you will ever do that, right? So make sure you guys have good material, right? Little cheat sheets. I have. I'm about to minimize my window. This is my desktop, right? This is very common. This is my desktop. Like, if you think I remember every time I'm trying to check if something is in the output, I don't know that. I code in Python, JavaScript, Java, right? I have 3 different languages. I forget some of the syntax, or I forget some of the command trees, and so will you. So make sure you guys have stuff like this easily, readily available to you guys. Bookmark some of these common websites that you guys might use, W2 schools, certain things that you might find useful that I should probably know this method. Because it's such a broad spectrum, right? There's so many things, so many routes you can take, and if for every route you do, there's different things to learn from there. For those of you who have been in the military for a while, right? You guys are leaders now, sergeants, staff sergeants for classes, especially. As you guys may notice, as you guys climb up the ranks, and you go to these different leadership schools, you stop learning a lot. I don't know if you noticed. What do they really teach you? Anybody? What do these leaderships end up teaching you later on? Besides how to be like a good leader and how to talk to soldiers, right? What else do they teach you?
How to find the answer?
How to find the answer. Exactly. How to find the answer. You get to a level, right, where you start learning all these field manuals. All right, and you go through here and you're like, all I'm doing is doing Control F to find something in this field manual. And I'm looking how to do this task, right? To to do something. They show you how to find the answer. And computer programming, computer science, software development in general, everything, you're gonna do a lot of that. So if you guys aren't good at doing some research, checking some stuff up, reading documentation, if you guys ever looked at documentation for stuff, for example, like if you were to look at the Ubuntu documentation, if you guys look up Django documentation, it can be very confusing. So you have to get very comfortable reading all this stuff and kind of trying to learn how to understand it and parse your information, because it's very broad. There's so much information out there and so much that you guys do not know, and still, once you guys are a year, 2 year, even, I got buddies who've been doing this for 8, 10 years, they don't know everything. All right, so make sure you guys are learning how to find the answer. All right, practice these Linux commands. So write down.
Roger,
What's up, brother?
quick question. That on the previous slide,
Uh-huh.
is that part in red? Are we able to get that from the repo?
From the repo, I mean, you could do it here. I mean, you guys have the
No,
slides.
I'm just saying the wording, like as far as the wording for the slide, the instruction is that slide in that GitHub repo that you gave
No,
us?
these slides can be found if you guys go here to your schedule, you click the links, you have the slides to
Okay.
every lesson we're gonna cover.
Okay, cool.
All right, awesome.
Thank you.
Does everyone have access to it? I know I accidentally shared a link that required you guys to ask for permission. Is it good now? Sweet. All right.
I could
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm able to do from the download for it, but I will find out later.
Okay. Awesome.
Roger, can I ask a quick terminal question before we go on?
Yes.
So I've got Weasel on my computer and I've been using Bash in my Visual Studio Code, and it looks like that's what you're using also. But I'm hearing we're supposed to be using WSL there also.
You should have an option here. Where is it at? Pretty sure Bash is in here. Configure terminal settings. I
Is it
mean,
okay to use Bash, or do we have to figure that out? Get Weasel there.
I mean, that's fine. Mine's linked, honestly. I don't know how I did it. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Mine is linked too, and it's Bash. Yeah.
Yeah, you should be fine. I'm pretty sure Bash is, Weasel. You should be good.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
There, I think where's it at? There's one here. Bash. Yeah, you should be fine. Don't stress it. All right, moving on. Where's my lesson at? All right, so practice Linux commands. So write down your Anki, just like I mentioned earlier. Uh, everything that we learned from moving on, I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. If you guys aren't coding along, which is fine, right? Not everyone's gonna be able to code along. When I went to the immersive program, I could not keep up with the instructor. I ain't gonna lie to you. What did I do? I downloaded a program. I believe it's called OBS. I think I still have it. I don't want to show you guys my desktop because I got a bunch of games. Uh, it's called OBS, I believe. Yeah, OBS Studio. Download OBS Studio. So what they're gonna do, very similar to how I'm doing now, they're gonna record every single lesson. The lesson are gonna end somewhere around 1 p.m., maybe 12 p.m., depends on the curriculum. And then they're going to download it to the computer and then upload it to YouTube. I don't know if you guys ever downloaded a Zoom call that are hours long, 3 or 4 hours. It takes a while, right? A while. And then I don't know if you guys ever upload it to YouTube, but that takes a while too. We finished class at 9. I'm in bed by like 11. So I would try my best to upload every single lesson the night prior, right before the next morning, so you guys can see it when you guys wake up. But that's not what's going to happen. And they didn't either. So I had to download OBS Studio, which allows you to screen record on your computer, and I don't think it even notifies them either. But I would download. I'm sorry, not that. I would record all the lessons on my own computer because by the time that they would upload the video, sometimes it would go a whole 24 hours before I see it. But I needed that information immediately. I couldn't code along because I was brand new to coding and all that information was so new, and I would mess up, right? I would finger fumble. I would have an error in my code. Now my code's not running. The instructor's 10 steps ahead. There's 40 students. Everyone else is trying to ask questions why their code's not working. It was a pain. So I recorded everything and I just watched. I watched and took notes. And then you guys don't have to do this. This is what I did. And then I rewatched the entire recording after class was done. Class would end sometime around 5, I think, 5:30. And then I would spend the next 3 hours rewatching everything and then coding along then, because then I could pause it because I got my own recording. You guys don't have to do that, right? But I couldn't code along, right? So you guys have to find your own method of how you are able to ensure that you're receiving the information as you should. If you guys can keep up with the instructors and not disrupt the class every 10 minutes because you messed up, then hey, I wish I was like you too. If not, then either take very good notes, maybe make your Anki slides as the class is going, or do what I did, record it, and then you can do your own watch through on your own, pause it as needed. Whatever works for you guys, but make sure you guys are taking some form of notes or you're able to recap in some form of fashion, right? There's obviously way more commands than this, but this should get you started. And then feel free to customize your terminal. I never did. I don't care. There's different tutorials on YouTube. You can look it up, see how it works. It's a waste of time. But hey, by all means, you guys do it. Make it look pretty. There's even extensions on VS Code. I had other students do it that you can have like a little pet walking around your screen. That's so weird, dude. But you can, yeah. They have like little pets and stuff just walking on the screens that are coding. But I mean, whatever floats your goat. So, what is Git? I know you guys went over this. I saw the recording. What is Git? All right, now everybody at once, guys, chill out.
Local version.
Local version control. Yes, local version control, right? There's Git and there's GitHub. Are the best way to explain what either one is. They're not essentially the same thing, but Git is like local version control. This is what you have on your computer, your own copies of stuff, your own version of progress. Why my face looks so white? And then there's GitHub, right? It's essentially think of it like a cloud, right? Where you can upload stuff, people can download stuff, you can save things on GitHub. That's kind of what GitHub really is. You can collaborate with other people, you can contribute to other people's work. But Git is your local version control. This is where you can actually work on your projects, make updates. You can branch off your original work to be able to make changes to it without disrupting what you already have, right? Sometimes it happens all the time, right? You're like, let's say you're not tracking your versions control, your version control, and you go ahead and you make changes directly to your main, pot of code, and you mess it up. Now it doesn't work. You added a line somewhere and it just broke it. Git will allow you to take on. It's like it's bugging me. It's 7:21. Let's take a 10-minute break, right? Let's come back at 7:31 and we can resume class.
Oops.
All right, welcome back. Everything good? What was going on with that voiceover? All right, we're gonna go ahead and move forward. Let me just see them real quick. Where is this lesson? All right, let me go share. All right, so local version control. You should track the different versions of your work. Essentially, what this allows you to do is almost create like a clone of your progress, right? Because the last thing you want to do is make any changes or work on your main project, do something that you mess it up where your project is working perfectly fine, and then out of nowhere you add a line of code, you change something, and now it does not work. That is the worst feeling ever, especially like me who was doing the assessment and it's Sunday night and I'm about to run out of time and I just lost all my progress, right? So Git allows you to prevent a situation just like that. We see here a small little description of what it looks like in a visual representation, right? Here we have what is called the master branch, or in other words, some people like to say main as well. It goes by different words. This is where the main status of the project is. And whenever you guys get a job working in software development, you're gonna have different people working on the exact same project. And the last thing you want to do is mess up somebody's work. So to prevent that, we create something what's called branches, right? We essentially try to branch off where the project is at. It creates this branch, which is essentially a version or a copy of what the main branch is, right? And then it allows you to work on what's already been worked on and then make changes to that, right? We see here two different branches. We see the blue one and the orange one. You have your work, what you guys are doing, what your task is for the week, the month, whatever it may be, and then what somebody else is doing. This allows both people or multiple people to work on the exact same project and split the load without messing up what the main branch has. And then when you guys work GitHub, you'll realize that it even allows you to merge your changes and then compare and contrast what you created, what the main branch has, and ensure there is no issues with your merge, right? If there is something wrong with your code that's going to break the main branch, it typically, sometimes, right, will tell you that there is a merge conflict, right? And then you would have to go through your code and it'll tell you where the merge conflict is at. And you can either remove it or adjust it so that way you can merge effectively. It doesn't always do that, right? And because of that, we have other people that review our merges, right? Whenever, when you guys do a job, you'll have restrictions to what you can do. And you have people that will be in charge of you, and they will be the overseers of your merges. And whenever you go to put in a pull request, you would have to have someone approve your pool, and that way there's nothing that breaks, right? He's gonna review your code, make sure that it's good to go. If the person's doing their job, he will actually review it. Sometimes they're just like, it looks good to me, and then they'll tell you to merge it. But typically other people can review it, make sure there's no conflicts, and then merge it, and now it becomes part of the main branch, right? The big tree. Why do we use Git? This is a slide from the animal, so I can't relate to this. But essentially, what this allows you to do is create different versions of your work. That way you can save it and work on it somewhere else, right? Git allows you to work on it in your local computer, work on your computer from home, right? Take it from home, do your work, and then send it out back to GitHub to join the rest of the branch, right? Cool. So Git will provide different save points. Essentially, every time that you do something on Git, right? When you add something, when you commit something, Git tracks all this, right? It tracks it with some kind of hash code. It assigns it some kind of like code, and then it gives it a timestamp, right? And then your name is also added to this. And you're able to track the history of changes on your versions. This is extremely helpful. When I first started off, we did a group project. It was the first time we did a group project. It was during Copenhagen, and our project was a video game that we created using the Godot game engine. At the time, I don't know now, Godot didn't work well with Git. It was brand new. It was still in the process of, making working well with Git where there wasn't issues. The issue that we were running into was whenever we would upload into the main branch our image assets, right? Assets essentially just like a different name for like the imagery that we use for a game. It couldn't read it, right? It couldn't read our assets. So on Git, it was like unreadable code. It was just a bunch of numbers and letters. It wasn't even the image. It was just garbage that was unreadable, right? Only a computer knew what it was, but we couldn't. And every time that someone would merge with the main branch, it would corrupt everything else. What was happening was I was in charge of the main character, right? I was making our main hero, and then the other people in my team, they were in charge of different stuff, like for example, like the maps, right? The enemies, terrain, the different power-ups and whatnot, interactables, right? Consumables. And they would use the character I would create to test their stuff out. So we had one person working on like the main map. So they would drag the character I created onto the map. And then I would make updates to the character. All right, I was still working on the character. It was a work in progress. And every time I would make an update to the character, their version control wasn't tracking the change on the hero. So when they tried to run the game, it would crash because that character, that version of the hero they had wasn't what was actually supposed to be there, and it wasn't tracking the hero. And it became a huge mess. We had to go back to the history of all our commits. Luckily, because of the version control, we were able to find exactly where stuff would go wrong. And we were able to bring our version back to a period of when it worked, right? You guys see this on your computers as well. If you guys ever done like a reset on your computer, if you guys have backups, right? You see this on your phones. You guys create phone backups, save it on the cloud for your iPhone, right? If you guys ever wanted to go back to a state where you had your phone working or the computer working, you had different points that your computer saves itself, you can create a save point and you're able to go back to those, right? And the Git allows you to do that. It has this whole progression of different changes and tracks everything that you do, where you did it, who did it, at what time it was. It'll highlight it for you as well on GitHub whenever you're looking at it. and it shows you every change, which is awesome. Git and GitHub in general are very commonly used in the industry, which is why you guys will be using Git during the immersive program and honestly any program. This is on the wrong spot. We'll continue moving forward. What is GitHub, right? Essentially, it's a remote version of what Git is. It's essentially just like a cloud of different repositories where different people can collab with each other, share different repos, and it tracks the main branch, right? It keeps records of everything. It allows you to work in different groups and split the load without messing anything up on your application, right? Do you all have a GitHub account before we move forward? Awesome. Does anyone not have a GitHub account? Okay, cool. Then you guys are good to go. Pushing to GitHub. We'll do this in a bit. Let's talk about the GitHub and the push commands before we actually do the example. So if you guys don't have a GitHub account, make one right now. If you guys didn't speak up, you will need it for the rest of the program as well. These are the commands that we're going to be using. Git init is going to initialize Git into your terminal, right? It's something as simple as typing in Git init, and then I had it open earlier. It'll open up your Git and it'll start tracking your progress, right? Git add will add a file to a staging area, right? Git add and git commit are not the same thing, and we're going to talk about that, right? So git add, I want you to imagine, what's the best way of saying it? Imagine if your code is like a factory and you're creating different files. These are your products in your factory, right? And as soon as something's ready you completed this piece of code or this file in your factory, you want to put it in a certain area that it's ready to be sent out, right? It's not ready to be shipped, but it's completed, it's made. So that's what git add is. It adds it to a staging area where you're done with that piece of code, that file, right? And it sets it away in a little staging area that you can't see, right? And then git commit will allow you to put it into the shipping area, right? Where it's about to head out. So git add and commit are another things. They're almost both very similar to being staging areas. It's just a two-step process, if that makes sense, right? In your factory, you completed making your product, you're gonna set it aside. These are completed. That's your git add, right? Now you're ready to, you're about to send it out. So you're gonna take it to the shipping area in your factory, right? Right by the, the shipping containers, all your pickup trucks. That's gonna be your git commit, right? You're gonna add everything that's in your staging area to the special folder as a snapshot or a commit, right? This is gonna pretty much package it all up. It's ready to be pushed up to GitHub. Does that make sense? And then you have your git push, which we see at the very bottom here. Git push will push all your code to a remote repository somewhere in the cloud, right? Where you can use it on GitHub, right? That's the different parts of actually sending something to GitHub. You have the git add, sends it to a staging area. Your git commit kind of packages it up, ready to send out, right? Saves it in a snapshot. You can actually find the folder somewhere on your GitHub folders on your computer when you create a where you initialize it. It saves a snapshot as well, and then your git push is actually delivering it up to your GitHub repository, right? For git add, you can either git add a specific file, right, or everything that you have created, right? You can git add all the changes. Let's say you're working on your backend, right? And you have different files. One's for like a user, one is for let's say front end. Let's say you have a file for your users, you have a file for your homepage, you have a file for your, let's say what's another one? for your gallery, right? And you have made changes to all three of these, but only one of them is complete. You're not ready to really, add all these to the staging area. You can do git add, put that specific file. Let's say user is done. You can add that specific file to the staging area. Git add dot very universal. Pretty much through coding, you'll see that a lot where a period means everything. So you do git add and then a period. That'll add all the changes you created. It'll add all those files you've updated, right, that you've changed into that staging area. Now, once everything has been set in the staging area, it's good to go. You made your changes. You're ready to kind of ship them out, right? We're gonna do a commit. So we'll do git commit, and you're gonna do -m. After -m, what -m is saying is you're going to add a message, right? And this will make more sense once you start working with GitHub. After the -m, you can type in a small little message saying, updated, the user authentication, right? Whatever. Whenever you receive this in your GitHub repository, it'll come up there with that message. So whenever you see that commit, you know what that commit did. All right, that's what that message is for. Git status will allow you to see all the files in that staging area, right? So if you've been adding a bunch of different files, you don't know what got added, git status will allow you to do that. One time it came in handy is when I was pushing up my changes to my backend, and I had a key, right? This will make more sense in the immersive program. I had a key, which is essentially this key that allowed me to access certain stuff, and I didn't want it to get leaked. There's certain things that you don't always want to push up to GitHub, right? Because then other people can have access to it, right? You have special unique keys that give you access to certain parts of your program as a developer, and these keys are unique to you. And then letting these keys to be leaked out can essentially ruin everything, right? And I had to not send it up. Well, when I did git add in the doc, it pretty much added everything to the staging area. And then right before I was gonna commit it, I realized, did I just send up my key as well? I had it in a file. So using the git status allows you to see the staging area, and then you're able to actually remove it from the staging area by using the git rm hash and the name of the file, right? That avoided me from setting everything up that shouldn't be sent up to my GitHub repository. All right, so git status will allow you to do that, see everything that you've committed or added. It's just a functionality. You don't ever, I haven't had to use it. Git log will show you a history of your snapshots or commits. So git status shows you what's in the staging area. Git log shows you everything that's been shipped out, right? Just a shipping log of everything you've committed up to your GitHub repository, right? I've used that for, as I mentioned to you before, my scenario where our game was being messed up, stuff was being corrupted. We had to bring it back to a certain state where our repository was working. Git log allowed me to go back, check the different commits, see remember when was the last time our program was working, and then go back to a snapshot of time where my file was working. As mentioned before earlier, git push your code to a remote repository. All right, so push to GitHub. Sorry, my kid. Say hello, Nico. But yeah, so we're gonna go over GitHub now. Have you guys all cloned the GitHub repository or no?
The one for FOP?
Correct.
Yes, I just cloned it. I just downloaded it to my system.
Okay, has someone not cloned it?
Okay. I haven't.
Okay, so we'll cover real quick the cloning of the repo. And that'll start us off for our GitHub class. Did you guys cover this during the weekend or no? No? Yes?
Over the weekend, it was just a brief discussion on Git. I don't recall if we went into actually how to clone.
Okay.
But I do know from the Stall Fest that we did have to clone as well. So
That's fine. We'll go ahead and do it by practice. Can you guys see my screen, my terminal? All right, I'm going to go ahead and create a new directory. This is where I'm going to clone the repository for this class. We'll do make directory FOP September 2024. Once my directory is created, I can go in here. I can do git init, right? This will initialize the Git on my computer within this folder, and I'm going to clone the branch for the repository. Now, if you guys are looking for the repository, you guys can go to your class schedule. At the very top, you'll find it here. You can click that, and then it'll bring you. Ooh, actually, I think this might be outdated. Stand by. No, it's fine. Where's that? Okay. So yeah, it should bring you here. What you guys are gonna do on the top right of every repository, I want you to press on code. This will open up a little window, and you'll have HTTPS and GitHub CLI. On the HTTPS, you're going to click on copy URL to clipboard. This will copy the URL for the repository, and this is what you're going to use to clone your repo. Going back to your terminal, where you create a directory and initialize Git, you're going to do git clone space, and then just press Control V, and it should add the repository in here and press enter. You see here, we get the message saying cloning into FOP. And then afterwards, it's complete, done. I can do ls. I see FOP was added within this folder. I'm within the FOP September 2024 directory. Let's go ahead and go into FOP, ls, and I see all my lessons added within here. Stand by. Did everyone get it?
Got it.
All right, let's go ahead. I should be able to. I'm gonna go open up this on my VS Code. So I'm gonna do code, and I'm gonna do dot. This will open this up in my VS Code with all the folders. All right, my VS Code is open. On the left side, we have the FOP folder. Open it up, and I can see all my lessons. Cool. All right. On my terminal in VS Code, let me make sure. I'm pretty sure Git is already initialized. Okay, there we go. I'm reinitializing Git repository in here. Go ahead and put Git init. And we should be able to open up our Git instance. Now, on your individual GitHub, all right, I want you guys to go to your individual GitHub now. Give me a second. I gotta sign in. We're gonna do a walkthrough of the repositories. I'm signing in now. Let me know if I'm going too fast. I don't think I am, but if I am, don't hesitate to tell me. Sorry, having some issues with my authenticator. Okay. All right, once you are in your GitHub, I want you to go to your repositories and you're gonna click new. You guys covered this as well or no? No? All right, cool. All right, within here, you're gonna create a new repository. It'll bring you to this window and you're going to create a repository name. We can just say example repo. We see if it's available or not. Example of repository. You can put an example or not, or sorry, description or not. It does not really matter. It is optional. You can set it to either public or private. You can add a README, right? So essentially, what a README is, it creates a file within your repo, and then within this file, people typically put instructions, right? Depending on what this repository is holding, you can put instructions to tell people how to install the program that you have on your repository. If there's any important information that they need to know to access your program, and this is where you would add it, right? I'm gonna put add README just for the heck of it. We see here add a .get ignored. So as I mentioned to you before earlier, there's gonna be times where you're gonna have files that you don't want to have on your GitHub repository, especially if it's a public repo, right? By adding the get ignore, in the get ignore, you're able to add into this file the name of the files you want to ignore whenever you push or commit into GitHub, right? If you had a file with all your secret keys to access your backend, that's where you would add the get ignore, right? That way, whenever you commit, you don't accidentally give the entire world access to your stuff, right? So we're not going to use one right now. Just know that it does create a get ignore file within your repository. And the license, we don't need any license for what we're doing. Gary, yes, you can, right? So if you don't create a README from here, you are able to just create your own README afterwards. It's no big deal. Once you're complete, go ahead and click create repository. And it'll bring you to the main page of your new repository, right? Now, for linking your GitHub to your computer, we are going to create a separate directory, mainly for the sake of ensuring that you guys don't mess up your repo for your work. We're going to go into our command line. Back out of your FOP directory and create example repo folder, right? And then you can open up the example repo folder. within here, I want you guys to initialize Git. You'll be greeted by this intro that will allow you to initialize GitHub. And now what we're going to do is we are going to link our remote repository to our local Git, right? So to do that, you're going to do Git remote add. And if I'm not mistaken, it should be within here. If you guys go to your GitHub and you click code, actually, what happened? Doesn't have it here anymore? It used to have it. So before, I don't know where it's at right now, actually. It used to prompt you with an area that it allowed you to, it told you a step-by-step process of how to add your GitHub repo to your local Git. But I'll just tell you the process. Back to your VS Code, if you do git remote add origin, you're going to copy and paste the link from your GitHub repo that you created, just like we did on the Git clone. And that should add your remote repository. Right? I'm gonna branch yet to be made. So within here, I want you guys to create a file. Any file that you want to create. We'll say example python.py. And then we'll add some quick code. We'll just say print. This is my first commit. All right, and then we can save it. All right, now that we create a change to our file, we're gonna do git add and just press we'll just put the period. We have nothing returned. So let's do git status. And then on the status, it will tell us what is within the staging area, right? After we created that change, right, to our folder, we now created a new file and we want to put it to the staging area. So we did git add period. It added everything that we've changed. If we go up here, you can see on the file, there's kind of like an A here. It says index added, right? It's pretty much tracking the changes that we have on this folder. And then on the git status, we see on branch main, no commits yet, and it tells us what has been changed, right? We added a new file, example python.py. Go ahead and do git commit -m, and then we're gonna put a message. It's gonna be my first commit, and put enter. And if it was complete, it'll tell you here, one file change, one insertion. We added that new file, which was example_python.py. I see your message, Brandon. Thank you for showing up, man.
Roger, will you scroll back up to the after you did on the checkout? When you did git checkout, did you do git add? Okay, so you did git add and git status. Okay.
Correct. Right. So after we did the git remote add origin, that linked our local Git, right, our folder to the GitHub repository. Ignore this. I was kind of just messing around with it. Afterwards, I created my file, example_python.py. And then I added it to my staging area by doing git add period, right? That puts it in that little area that I mentioned to you guys in your factory, right? You created your product, you put it to the side because these are all your finished products, right? They're not ready to be shipped yet, but you made changes, right? You created new stuff, so you can put it on the side, right? That's what git add dot is doing. It's gonna put it to a staging area. I did git status to show me what is currently in my staging area, and it shows me that I have a new file called example_python.py. Right. After it's been added to my staging area, I realized, hey, you know what? I made all the changes I want to make. My products are good. It's ready to be shipped out. So I need to package it up. Right. And that's what git commit is going to do for me. Right. It's going to take everything that's in my staging area and it's going to grab it and package it up, ready to head out. Right. So I did git commit -m so I can add a message to my commit, letting know other people to what this commit is adding to the change. And then it returns to me with a message telling me what was added to my commit. And we see here one file change, one insertion. It created example_python.py. Finally, we do git push. And this is pretty much the delivery trucks leaving my warehouse to send all of my changes off to my remote repository. And now we see here, we have the git push _set upstream origin main, right? It says to push the current branch and set the remote as upstream, use this command, right? So copy and paste it. Oh man, I copied it wrong. You see current branch is behind. Let's check out my current branch. Okay. So what's happening here? It says that my changes were wrong. Why do you guys think is it I'm getting an error here? Who can guess?
I know it has something to do with you not doing the git pull first to make sure that your local repo is lined up with your remote repo.
Correct.
Something like
What's different between my GitHub repo that I have here, right? And then this one.
Your local remote has the changes in the. Yeah,
Sure.
I don't know. I'm
What does the
shooting in
GitHub
dark.
repo have that my local one does not?
It's missing the README.
It's missing the README, right? So it's telling me do a git pull, right? So git pull, what it does, it pulls all the changes from GitHub repo down to your local repository because they're not at the same state, right? My GitHub repo is ahead of what mine is because my local repository doesn't have the README. It's not updated with what the remote repository is having. So we're gonna do git pull. Git pull. Yeah, git pull origin main. So if you were to just do git pull by itself, it's going to give you this command right here. And it's telling you that it doesn't know where to pull from, right? So you have to put origin main to let it know that you're trying to pull from the remote repository from the main branch, right? And it's not letting me spell out git config pull. Say there's a merge conflict. Git pull org main. And get fetch head. Mm,
What if you try making another branch and then pull
I
into that
can
branch?
git branch. What do I call it? Example branch. Git checkout. Example branch. Okay. Right. So it's having issues with the pool. Right. So the one that I just requested for me to make another branch. So we can solve the merge conflict here in our console, or we can solve it on GitHub, right? By creating a different branch, what that's going to allow us to do is going to allow us to essentially send every change that we've created to this branch, and then on GitHub, we can resolve the merge conflict. Make sure everything's good to go. Git add, git commit, new first commit. Working tree clean. Git status. Because I don't have anything there. Git checkout. Git checkout example. Yeah. But why is it not git push? Git push. That's upstream. Okay. All right, so let me explain what I just did. So it is a new branch, right? I diverge from my main branch, right? Earlier we connected upstream to the main branch, but there was issues, right? So we create a new branch, but now we need to connect that branch to our GitHub repository, right? So I did a git push so it can give me this command, and it's telling you essentially how to set the connection between your new branch on your computer and the branch on GitHub, right? It sets it up upstream, let them know, hey, these two are going to be linked together, right? Because my GitHub repository, it only had one branch. It was the main branch, right? But on my local Git, I created that separate branch, right? But I have to link that separate branch onto my GitHub by doing the set upstream. And when we come up here to our GitHub repository, we see this message here. Example branch had recent pushes 9 seconds ago. I can refresh it. It should be a minute, 1 minute ago. All right. I can go here to the little tab. This shows me all the branches I have. I have 2 branches. By clicking main, it shows me the branches that I have, and I have example branch. When I go to the example branch, I see that I have my example Python file, but I don't have a README. It's actually prompted me to create a README. Can you guys hear my kid in the background now? Am I still good? All right, perfect. Man, these headphones are good. All right. So we need to make sure that they're linked together. So we're gonna go ahead and do a compare and pull request. This will bring us to this page and to show us the changes that were created. We see here that I have one addition, this file that says print. We go to pull request. new pull request. Why is it not allowing me to? Hold on, let me go to my branch main. Add one commit. Branch, okay, pull request. What is going on with it? Checkout main. Git fetch origin main. Okay, let's go with git merge origin main. All right. Okay. So they were in different commits. If you feel like you're lost, it's okay. All right. So what's happening is I was trying to go to my main branch, go to my compare and pull request, and it wasn't allowing me to merge them together. Why? Well, because my main and my example branch were on entirely different commit histories. I had committed on my main branch, and it was causing issues, right? So I wanted to get rid of those conflicts. I didn't care for the conflicts. I knew there wasn't any conflicts in there. So I did git merge origin / main, and then I said allow unrelated histories, right? What that did was pretty much ignored all the merge conflict and merged it anyways. And I brought it in here. You don't have to really understand too much right now about all the extra commands you can do on GitHub. Originally,
Roger.
you're able to just, yes.
Also, I can see that you switched back to main first, though, right?
Correct.
Because,
Yes.
okay.
I switched back to, I'm sorry, it's been a little distracting. I switched back to my main because my main wasn't updated, right? They were on different commits. I needed to pull them in and merge them together. But it wasn't allowing me to do that. It's saying that there was a merge conflict due to the different commits. So I switched back to my main and I just merged the other branch directly onto my main branch, ignoring all the issues that it claimed it had. Right? If I go to the branch, get, why is that telling me? Get checkout. What's it called? Example. If we go back to the original branch, I'm sorry, the branch, the original branch I created, example branch, we see here that the branch is up to date with origin example branch, right? That means that my branch and my main are up to speed on the changes I've created. Let's take a 10-minute break, come back, and then we'll finish off with GitHub. before we start in the next 2 minutes, was everyone able to get merge? Anyone that doesn't but wants to share the screen?
I was able to. I had to do the same thing with the allow to allow unrelated histories. After that, I was able to push and then merge to main. Push to main.
Okay. Anyone did not? All right, let's go ahead and continue going then.
So a quick question. So was the reason for the conflict that we had was because when we checked out, when we made that branch, because it didn't have what was currently on main in the branch. So when we tried to merge it, that was the reason for the conflict.
Yes. Are you guys set upstream on your main branch? Justin, are you good?
Probably. I didn't do any of the previous exercise, but I've used Git
Okay.
exclusively, so.
Okay. Yeah, so it's important that we have both the main and the example branch linked up upstream to our GitHub repository. Right? Afterwards we want to merge them. I don't know why it was giving us issue with merging it. But they're essentially on two different commits and two different histories. So we went ahead and just merged them together like that, the way that we did. All right, so you should be able to have a main branch and the example branch, with the main branch having your changes. All right, if anyone has any questions, I'm gonna stop class like at 8:45. That way you guys can stay back and we can answer them.
Roger, I think you might have to mute Mike. Oh, there you go.
Oh, everything good? Awesome. Okay, so student practice, you guys are gonna be doing this on your own. We're gonna go ahead and move on with this so we can finish it before time ends. So talking about branches, right? So a cool Git feature that allows us to branch off our main code base and try something out. So essentially we had our master branch that we had created by creating our original repository, right? We created that example branch where we wanted to branch off, add a new file, create a new feature, right? And then we encountered a merge conflict. All right, that's the first conflict that you guys will encounter, and it won't be the last. When working with GitHub, it can get a little complex, especially when you have like hundreds of files. But essentially, we're having the issue because our main branch and our side branch were in two different stages. So it's important to ensure that you, before you push up and whatnot, you want to make sure you pull from your origin main branch to ensure it's up to date. And then after that, you can actually push up to it. So creating a new branch, so not in order, but you guys just saw here. So you can create a new branch. You can do git checkout B is a little outdated. You don't have to do it exactly like this, but you can create a new branch. As you guys saw earlier, let's see if I can do another one. Git branch example 2 git checkout. Your branch is ahead of order. Git checkout example 2. Right. Why does it not show my branches? We see here that I switched over to example 2. So by doing git checkout example 2, I was able to git branch example 2, I was able to create that that separate branch, just like we did earlier.
Are
Is
you
everyone
supposed to be sharing your screen right now?
Oh, my bad. Yes, I was. Was I not?
No.
Okay. Yeah, so I did git branch example underscore 2, right? That created the new branch. I should be able to do git branch. There we go. Git branch shows me all the current branches that I have. Example 2, example branch. I can do git checkout main, switches back to main. But yeah, I went to these without even sharing. My bad. Combining branches, we have the git merge. So you're able to do this through your what you call it, through your command line, or you're able to do it through GitHub, right? You guys got to see a little bit of what it looks like by doing the compare request and seeing the changes from left to right. The file on the left, the name of the file, and on the right side being all the changes that were made. You saw the green being insertions, and if we had deleted anything from any existing file, it would be red for deleting. For the buff to work, make sure you're on the branch you want to add to, and in your terminal, you run git merge and then the name of the branch. All the code of your other branch will now be added to your main branch. We did attempt to do this. That's when we got the merge conflict. Building a cool GitHub README. So apparently this is very important. I never did it. If you're into it, you guys can. So if you guys go to your profile, you can see something like this. It's your profile, and you can add different things to it, like pictures, what you're good at, the different languages you know. The most important part I would say about your GitHub profile would be this part. I haven't had to use my personal GitHub for a while, so we see here it's a little bit empty. The green dots you see was when I was doing classes for the last one. So you see that when I taught it in May, and then when I taught it in January, is when I use my personal GitHub. I don't use my personal GitHub too much. But for those of you that are going to be job seekers and you go ahead and turn in your resume, part of your resume is also going to have your GitHub link, right? And that's going to be what sells you as a developer, right? Because you don't have like other real world experience when it comes to software development. What's going to sell you as a developer is going to be your GitHub profile, right? And your personal projects that you've created. If you went through college as a computer science degree, you will do small projects, right? In college, they won't be that big, but they are not going to be impressed if you show up to an interview with just what you created from what they force you to do in college. So one thing that I do recommend after you guys graduate, continue working on your GitHub, right? Continue making more personal projects, more than what you're going to be making in the program. But every time you use GitHub and you create a push, a pull request, every time you review, every time you do a merge, it's gonna light up here like Christmas. And it's gonna show you your contributions depending on how green they are. If you guys are already following software developer meme pages like I am on Instagram, they always make fun of like that one guy who is like, all this is just green because they're like super tryhards. You don't have to have it all green and lit up. I mean, does it look good? Yes. But don't feel discouraged if this isn't fully maxed out. But this says a lot about you as a developer and as a contributor on your own time, right? It shows how active you are when it comes to coding, and how relevant you stay with your coding, right? If you're actually practicing it, if you're not just like killing time thinking that you're good and then you're just not putting anything on GitHub. Sure, you can show them projects, but how many times or how many videos can you go on YouTube and find a YouTube tutorial to like create a web page and you can code along to it, and then by the end of it you have a page, right? That's very simple. They actually want to see you put in the work, and this says a lot about you as a developer. So here it even breaks it down to you what they are, how many code reviews, issues, pull requests you created, and how many commits. Most of my commits are on my personal website. But yeah, and then your contribution activity. I believe the slide has an example. See, we hear this is Guillermo's old one. He was able to put his skill set, what he knows for his front end, his back end, and then his experience with DevOps. Yeah, you can personalize it, make it yours, make it look good and presentable. I think next we're gonna have some more examples too. Here's another one. I believe Guillermo pulled this one online. Here's another example. He has a nice little imagery, how many hours that person has for the week on specific languages, a small introduction. You can even see the achievements they have here. Another one, these are all just nice little examples that you guys can use, the tools that they use, right? So feel free to make it your own, and just kind of sell yourself as a developer. This is Guillermo's girlfriend. He posted hers as well too. Yeah. The color squares, right? So I just covered that. This, these are blue. You can customize these however you want. But this shows how active you are. And if you, I don't know if he told you guys the story, but he had a interview where he believes the only reason he actually got the offer because they were very impressed with his GitHub profile, right? Specifically, his contributions, right? He had 963 contributions, and his longest streak was 400 every single day, back to back. He had 400 contributions within these days. All right, and apparently his interview was extremely impressed, and they actually had a good talk about it, right? So, he claims, right? I don't know. He says this is why he thinks he got it, but who knows? Maybe they were just really impressed with his skill. But that's just his own experience with his profile. So feel free to make it look nice. Git pair student practice. We went over teaching how to fill the repo. So the repositories. Whenever you guys start the immersive program, they are constantly making updates to the repository. All right, so it's never up to date, right? There's always going to be some kind of like outdated information. There might be changes that they updated, they made improvements to the curriculum. So remember, whenever you guys are in a program, before you start your day, just go ahead and do a Git pull, right? To ensure that the curriculum that you're reviewing matches what the instructors have, right? Sometimes they make big changes, sometimes they don't make changes at all, but it's always a good practice whenever you guys are going to class to Git pull from the curriculum to ensure you guys are up to date. You guys don't have to worry too much about that here. I'm not gonna be doing changes like that. I'll make them between classes, but yeah. We are gonna stop here. It's 8:42. I'm going to open up the floor for any questions for 5-10 minutes, and then I'll stay here for the remaining minutes to help out anyone that has any questions about GitHub. But I will stop the recording now.